Hi, I don't have a ton of time this morning, but I really have been feeling inspired and pieces have been coming together for me that are just sort of like opening everything up and making everything make sense to me. And so I really love sharing as that happens. This is kind of a follow-up video to the last two big videos I did, I think this week, maybe last week, regarding food and food system and the energetics of plants. So if you haven't seen those, you might want to look at those as well, because this sort of builds on that. And I think it also will stand separately as well. So yesterday, I just kept having this phrase go through my mind, and that phrase was life force. Life force. Everything is about life force. It's not shocking that that would be a phrase that would go through my mind a lot, because I do a lot of reading and exploring and experiencing and kind of experimenting with my own self and noticing in my own body what I experience. So that's not a shocker, but it brought some pieces together for me that I have been sort of processing for quite some time that I'm really excited to share. So basically, what I realize is everything comes down to life force. Everything as far as health, and it all starts with I've been talking about and I've been referencing life force in different ways, like energy, vibration, that kind of thing, a higher feeling, those kinds of things. And what I realize is it really all comes down to life force. So I want to break that down a little bit to explain what I'm talking about. So life force is basically life. Whatever it is in life that creates birth and growth and transformation, all of it. And life, the earth is a living system in itself, and all life force on our planet for us is coming from that living system of the earth. And as a very big picture way to understand this, life force is attenuated or lessens the further you get away from that living system of the earth. So, for instance, a plant grown in the garden is going to have much more life force if you eat it right out of the garden than a canned food will have, or even a food in the produce section that's been on a truck and traveled and been out of the ground for several days. So the further you get away from the living system of the earth by time or space, in some cases, the less life force that particular thing is going to embody. So I know this experientially from food. I know without a doubt that if I eat something from a garden, is probably the best from a garden with good soil, is a world away from even a tomato, for instance, that I've gotten in the organic section at the grocery store, which is going to be better than a canned tomato. It's all kind of those levels of food I was talking about in that previous video about energy and vibration in food and how to raise your vibration through eating high vibration foods. So that is all absolutely right on, and it all really has to do with the proximity to, like I said, the entire Earth's living system. You can notice that anything alive is a system, whether it's your body, whether it's a plant, anything. And life it's hard to determine where life ends, and I actually don't think it does. I think there's life force in absolutely everything. But as far as sustaining systems. I don't even know if there's a word for it. Systems that are overtly alive, perhaps we could call it. Those really require sustenance from the life energy, the life force of the earth. So just for an example, I have this snake plant. So this used to be one leaf. I found one leaf, actually Vivi found it, on the sidewalk one day, and someone had just thrown it out because it had gotten bendy probably, right? And they just threw it out. And Vivi and I picked it up and we put it in this water. And this was probably 2.5 years ago now. You can see that it's grown extensively. And all it's had is this water and sunlight. And I'll tell you something really important, and that is that I don't change the water. So if you have a living system like this, you don't actually need to change the water because it's a system in itself. It's like a terrarium, or those systems where you have a fish in it and then some plants, maybe hydroponics. I'm not quite sure of the name of it, but it's a living system, and our bodies are the same. If we provide them with what they need and provide them with proximity to the living system of the earth, we are going to be healthy. We're going to be vibrating at a very high vibration, however you want to talk about that. And it's so interesting. I wanted to bring this up. So I had been talking about this book that I've been reading, The Secret Life of Plants, and I hadn't finished it. I am very, very close to finishing at this point. But I talked in that video the other day about there's got to be a system for a numerical system for calibrating vibration of other things besides human emotions, like the system that David Hawkins uses in Letting Go, or many of his other books. He'll reference that, basically kind of a rubric, a system of numerically giving value to different emotional states. So, and I was saying, there's got to be a way to do that with food too, because I feel it inherently. And lo and behold, I opened the book this morning, start reading, and the chapter is about that. So there actually is a way to do that. And everything that I know about vibrationally about food is validated by the science. And it's really, really fascinating to read. And I think that the most fascinating thing to me is that it just does validate everything I already know. I think we can all be attuned and connected to this vibrational energy, this life force, if we are paying attention and if our bodies are kind of cleaned out enough to become antennas for that. We all thrive on that. We all survive on it. We often, I think, are educated out of realizing that. And we learn all of these things that overpower and cover over the truth of what's really there, which is that we are life force, and that when we are separated from the life force energy of the earth, that we are unwell. And we're unwell to the degree that we're separated, and for the amount of time that we're separated from that life force energy of the earth. So we may be we've forgotten, right? We've forgotten that we are not only connected to, but intrinsically connected, intrinsically a part of the earth, that we come from the earth and go back to the earth when we die. And we are made of the earth. And if we are disconnected from that life force energy, like I said, we are ill in differing degrees. So I think people have really been uneducated about this, or that's the wrong word, but taught out of that knowing. And I feel that that is really a huge purpose of mine, is to remind people of our inherent connection to the earth and that life force energy, and how that creates wellness in all ways in our lives. So because we've forgotten that we are this life force energy, and that we are nourished by this life force energy, and that we're sick without it, that, you know, we kind of are doing these things. We've been like sold this bill of goods that we need products from other people. And it's an evil plan in a lot of ways to disconnect us in every way, to disconnect us, to dismember us from our own bodies, from our own knowing, from the earth, and to have an agenda for people to forget who they are, to forget that our wellness, our happiness, our peace of mind comes from being in connection with the life force of the earth rather than a product. So since we've forgotten as a whole that our wellness comes from the earth and the life force energy of the earth, and as part of the living system that the earth is, what we are now really, we can fall prey to is anyone who's going to try to sell us a product that gives us a degraded version of that, a isolated version of that. Anytime we isolate from the earth, whether it's ourselves or a plant, my potted plants are not as healthy or happy as they would be if they were in the ground in their appropriate environments. I've created little living systems for them where they are so they can thrive and survive to a certain extent. But if they were in their original homes, they would be much healthier, right? And doing much better and much bigger. So we are the same way. And if you isolate something and, for instance, make a medication out of a plant that's a healing plant that originally would be in the earth, part of that healing energy, life force of the earth, that if we were to eat that plant, it would be so much more healing. But what corporations and people have done is to sort of take essences out of these naturally occurring plants, life force containers, whatever those may be, and to isolate it, package it up, and then sell it to us. It's so funny in a way, right? It's like, do you remember that Sesame Street where Ernie, I always mix up Ernie and Bert, where Ernie was being sold a bottle of air by that guy, I think it was by that guy with the trench coat that was always selling him things. So he was literally being sold a bottle of air. And I actually think that that's exactly what has happened because of our disconnection from our wisdom and our own knowing of our connection with the life force energy of the earth. We are now, it's so ridiculous, being sold bottles of air as the remedy. So, of course, the actual remedy to all of this is to unlearn all of those false beliefs that we have, that we need this or that product from this or that corporation to be well or happy, and to re-establish our own connection with our own bodies, with our own knowing, with our own wisdom, which is the wisdom and knowing of the life energy of the earth. Plants don't have to go to school to learn how to photosynthesize, you know. This knowing, chickens, we have 3 baby chickens. They in general will not eat anything that they find in the garden that is poisonous to them. They don't have to learn that. This is wisdom from the life force energy of the earth that we are created from, that is our birthright. And we have been disconnected from that, dismembered from that, and thus we are a very sick society of people in general, on the whole, as a collective. directly in my belief because of our disconnection from the life force energy of the earth. So the first thing to do is to know that, realize that, soak in that, and immerse yourself as much as you can. Take one foot out of the muck at a time, as slowly as you need to do, but to reconnect with the ground, the sun, the air, the wind, with plants, real food in your body. Anything that feels nourishing. And at a certain point, the scales tip and you start to inherently, I feel like I'm using that word too much in this video. You naturally start to become aware that you are already attuned. You had just forgotten it, had all these beliefs put on top of it, but that you are naturally attuned to that life energy. You will feel when it is absent. You will feel when it is lessened. You will feel energized and high vibration when it's present. So that is your compass. That becomes your guide. And that is what is happening huge for me. It first kind of came in through the portal of food, and I started healing. And now I am just very much noticing. Now this is over a time span of my entire life, really. But my food journey started around 12 years ago with raw vegan food, when this attunement just started to skyrocket. I was aware of the energy in plants. I didn't know what that was. I just knew that I could feel it when I put my hand on a tree or a plant. I knew that I could feel that. I would go around feeling different things and going, oh my gosh, this is something I've never heard anyone talk about before. Then I started connecting with, I remember I went to a chiropractor who I told that to, and he called me a witch. He said, you're a witch. And he started working with me on how to actually have more awareness and intention with the energy in my body. And that was, I had all these little breakthroughs. I remember once a huge moment too was going to hear Amir Zogi speak. He's an Australian transformational speaker. I heard him many, many, many years ago. And I remember going to, I've told this story before, but going to a presentation that was actually it was not him I was going to see. It was Christina Rilo and Amy Ehlers, who are also great. And then Amir Zogi was a speaker on their stage after they had spoken, I believe. And what I felt when I listened to the content of his talk, and it actually wasn't listening to what he was saying, there was an energy in what he was saying that went through my body like a lightning bolt. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew that this was something that was crucial, essential, and of the highest importance for me to find out about. And so I actually ended up ultimately moving to LA and doing his OMG group, his oneness mentoring group, once a month, every month for a year, was doing a lot of work with other people, including his sister, but people who also felt vibrationally, now I'm going to call it high life force, very alive. And so what I've learned and what the pieces that are coming together for me now are that it's all one. It's not just food. It's not just emotional state. It is everything my body has been aware of forever, and so has yours, even if you have been taught out of that, disconnected from you, because there is an agenda to do that so that you feel like you need products from people who are that are actually provided to you better from the earth. Shoot, now I lost my train of thought. No, I got it. So what's coming together for me is that everything is about life force. Exactly what was going through my consciousness yesterday. Everything is about life force. So, and I am so aware that I am attuned to life force. And also, while I have been attuned to that for some time, years, I believe I did not understand what it was. I did not acknowledge it as truth. And I did not always know what it was and know how to use it as my compass and a guide. If you read my books, there's sort of a succession of me coming to this conclusion. And I don't even know that it's the end conclusion, but it certainly is a massive realization for me that all of it's one. So there is life force and lack thereof in degrees depending on your closeness with the life force of the earth, whether that be in people, in relationships and interactions, in your food, in your water, in the air that you're breathing, the environment that you're surrounding yourself in. You will become attuned to being able to tell what is high life force energy and what is dead. What is live growing plants that we are in communication with at all times. That's the other thing, is this whole life force energy is a system, right? Life is a system, always a system. As soon as life leaves the body, decay sets in. But as long as life is there, or this overt life that we're referring to is there, it's a system. It's a highly synchronized, communicative, holistic system. And our minds are only aware of little parts of that. Our bodies go on, even if our minds are not aware. If you're given anesthetic and it knocks you out consciously, and you don't have any awareness from your mind, your body doesn't stop. It keeps going. And, your brain keeps functioning, your digestive system keeps digesting, you keep breathing. Obviously, we couldn't use anesthetics to knock people out for surgery and that kind of thing if your body just stopped with your awareness. This is so far beyond our conscious awareness, our intellectual understanding. But really, it's just, we don't need to understand it. I don't think we have the ability to, pardon me. I'm just getting over a cold. But we just need to know that this is a living, breathing system, and that all of it works together, that it's all in communication with one another. Every cell in our body. I mentioned in an essay I wrote yesterday on Substack, which I would love if you wanted to subscribe there as well. I write a lot on there every week. And, oh man, but I lost my train of thought again. Well, I'll just keep going a little bit because I know a couple other things I want to say. That we're part of this whole system that communicates with itself all the time. I know what it was. And I mentioned that 10% of our cells are known to be human DNA. The rest are this whole microcosm of other cells, other little organisms that are communicating with our body, making up our body, keeping us healthy and well. I think most people are aware, of the flora in our digestive systems, for instance. That's become well known now, and that there's a whole actual brain in the whole gut system. It's all a system, guys, and we are, as a human being, not separate from the system that is the life force of the earth. We are just a part of it. And if we isolate ourselves from that in any sense, in any way, for any period of time, we will become ill. So it's about reconnecting with that knowing and reconnecting with that life system to have a full and vibrant life. So I'll leave it at that today. Have a wonderful day.